The garden shimmered beneath a September sun, the kind of warmth that seemed to press every flower into brighter bloom. White roses curled along the trellis arch, linen-draped tables glittered with crystal glasses, and the faint melody of a violin quartet floated across the Marlowe estate. It was meant to be a perfect day, Alex's wedding day. Marjorie Ellis sat stiffly in her chair, her sequined navy dress hugging her generous frame. At 56, she had the kind of presence people noticed, even when she wasn't speaking. Soft brown skin that carried the glow of age and struggle, full cheeks, and eyes dark as obsidian, etched with the experience of having seen too much. Her curls were pinned neatly back, though a few tendrils defied her effort, springing free as if to remind her that not everything could be contained. She smoothed her skirt and tried to relax, but unease coiled low in her belly. Weddings, she thought, were always about more than vows and cake. Beneath the lace and champagne, truths waited like sharp stones under velvet. Alex was her only son, and though she wanted happiness for him, she distrusted the performance of joy surrounding this second marriage. Beside her sat Leo, her grandson, her heart. At 8 years old, he looked like a miniature man in his little suit, his tie crooked despite her earlier attempts to straighten it. His brown skin glowed in the sun, his curls wild and stubborn like his father's had been. His feet, too short to touch the ground, swung nervously under the table. He tugged at her sleeve. "Grandma," he whispered, so low she almost missed it. "You didn't look under the table, did you?" The words hit her oddly. She turned to him, puzzled. "Under the table? Why would I do that, baby?" Leo's wide eyes darted around, as though afraid someone might hear. He leaned closer, the faint scent of grape juice clinging to his breath. "Because there's something under there. I saw it when I dropped my napkin." Marjorie blinked, curiosity mingling with dread. Leo wasn't a fanciful child. If he said he saw something, he saw it. She lowered her gaze to the linen-draped table, its pristine folds hiding whatever secrets lurked beneath. Her heart thudded. "Show me," she murmured. Leo hesitated. His small hand lifted the hem of the tablecloth just enough to create a shadowed opening. Marjorie bent, her sequins scratching against the chair as she peered inside. And there it was, a folded slip of paper, taped deliberately beneath the wood. Her throat tightened. She reached in with fingers that trembled more than she cared to admit and peeled it free. The paper was ordinary, white, but the words scrawled across it in hurried handwriting were anything but ordinary. Asterisk, asterisk, table 8, add shrimp to the child's serving. Asterisk, asterisk, the letters bled slightly, as though written in haste. The ink seemed to pulse against the page, each word a blow. Shrimp. Her pulse skipped. Shrimp was not food in their world, it was poison. Leo's allergy wasn't mild, it was merciless. One careless bite, one slip of seasoning, and his throat would close. She remembered the hospital nights, the crash of heart monitors, the way doctors spoke in clipped tones about fatal risk. She remembered holding his small hand as he struggled for breath, praying to a God who seemed far away, and now, here in her lap, a note, a deliberate instruction, not a kitchen accident, not coincidence, a plan. "Grandma." Leo's voice trembled. "What does it say?" Marjorie snapped the paper closed, pressing it hard against her palm. Her smile was tight, but she forced it anyway. "Nothing you need to worry about, baby, just some grown-up nonsense." But inside, terror churned. Who had written it? Who had placed it here? And why target her grandson on his father's wedding day? She scanned the crowd. Waiters in crisp uniforms glided between tables, balancing trays of champagne, flutes, and hors d'oeuvres. Guests leaned into conversations, laughter bubbling like champagne foam. Across the aisle, Alex stood near Marjorie's clutch, felt heavier than it should. The folded note inside pressing against her palm like a secret that could set fire to the room. She had sat through countless weddings in her life, friends, cousins, even Alex's first, but never had she carried evidence of malice while violins played softly in the background. She glanced at Leo, who had gone back to fiddling with his napkin, blissfully unaware of the dangers circling him like a hawk. His innocence was both a comfort and a burden. She had to protect it, protect him, even as her mind swirled with possibilities. The officiant cleared his throat, calling for everyone's attention. Guests turned toward the aisle, chairs creaking as they shifted. At the far end, Ava appeared, radiant in lace and satin, her smile wide, her bouquet trembling with tiny white orchids. Applause swelled, cameras flashed. Alex straightened his posture, a grin breaking across his face as he looked at his bride. Marjorie clapped with the others, but her applause was hollow. The note pulsed in her memory with every beat of her hands. Asterisk, asterisk, add shrimp to the child's serving. Asterisk, asterisk, her eyes roved across the crowd. The waitstaff glided smoothly, their trays balanced with champagne flutes and order. She singled out the head waiter, a wiry young man with a slightly hunched posture. His jaw tense as though he carried invisible weight. He avoided her eyes when their gazes met. Suspicion prickled along her skin. The ceremony continued, words of love and promise spoken under the arch of roses. Marjorie heard them, but faintly, as though filtered through glass. Her focus remained on the staff moving in and out of the tent. She caught sight of one waiter retreating to the catering station, where silver trays glimmered under warming lights. Leo tugged on her sleeve again. "Grandma, can I have some juice?" She forced her smile back. "Of course, baby, I'll get it for you." Leaving her chair, Marjorie intercepted the nearest waiter, a woman with bright lipstick and tired eyes. "Could you bring my grandson a fresh juice? And no shrimp anywhere near it, please." The woman blinked. "Shrimp in the juice. I'm making myself clear," Marjorie said, lowering her voice, "because he is severely allergic. Severely. If anything happens, I'll know who to hold responsible." The woman nodded quickly, taken aback. "Yes, ma'am. I'll make sure." Marjorie watched her go, her own pulse hammering in her ears. That was the trouble. Most people didn't understand the stakes. To them, allergies were an inconvenience. To Marjorie, they were life or death, and someone here knew that too well. The vows ended, applause roared, and the couple sealed it with a kiss. Cheers echoed across the lawn. The crowd began to rise, folding chairs scraping on stone. Waiters moved faster now, preparing for the meal. Plates clinked, glasses refilled. The machine of celebration spinning on. Marjorie slipped back into her seat, her body heavy with dread. Leo leaned against her arm. "They're married now, huh?" "Yes, baby," she whispered, kissing his temple. "They are." But her thoughts were miles away, circling around a single truth. Someone had gone to great lengths to disguise a threat as a kitchen instruction. Someone inside this polished scene wanted to harm a child. And as Marjorie watched Ava bask in attention, Alex's hand protectively at her back, a question crept uninvited into her mind. Was the danger coming from outside this family, or from within? One thing was certain. She would not leave the mystery alone. Tonight, before the first toast was raised, she would find out who had written that note. Marjorie waited until the applause for the new couple swelled into chatter and movement. Guests were filing toward the reception tent, where waiters hurried with trays of sparkling wine and plated odor. Her clutch pressed against her ribs, the note inside burning like a secret brand. She knew she couldn't sit idly by someone had written those words. And the kitchen was the first place to search for answers. "Grandma, where are you going?" Leo asked, his small hand tugging at hers as they followed the stream of people. "To get you something safe to drink," Marjorie murmured, forcing calm. "Stay close." Inside the reception tent, the air was thicker, warm from the heat lamps, fragrant with roasted meats and butter. Waiters darted between tables, their smiles painted on, their steps hurried, behind the flaps that separated guests from staff. Marjorie caught a glimpse of the catering station, silver trays gleaming, voices raised in kitchen shorthand. She crouched to Leo's height. "Baby, sit right here for just a minute. Don't move, you hear me? Don't take any food or drink from anyone but me." He nodded solemnly, too mature for his 8 years. Marjorie pressed a kiss to his temple, then straightened her spine and walked with purpose toward the catering station. A young man, barely out of his 20s, nearly collided with her as he emerged carrying a tray of shrimp skewers. The smell struck her like a slap. Shrimp, glistening pink and deadly. She stepped into his path, blocking him. "Who gave you that tray?" she asked, her tone sharp enough to make him flinch. The head waiter, ma'am," he stammered. His Adam's apple bobbed. "And did he tell you who it was for?" He shook his head quickly, shifting the tray from one hand to the other. His eyes flicked nervously toward the back. "I just follow orders." Marjorie leaned closer, her eyes boring into his. "Then, you tell me something, young man. Who writes those orders? Who decides what goes on the plates?" His lips parted, but before he could answer, a voice cut across the bustle. "Is there a problem here?" The head waiter approached, tall, narrow-shouldered, his face set in professional blankness. His dark hair was slicked back, his bow tie perfectly straight, yet something in his eyes a flicker too quick, a shadow to guard it set. Marjorie's instincts flaring. "Yes," she said firmly, straightening to her full height. "There's a very big problem. My grandson is allergic to shrimp." Someone placed a note under his table, telling staff to serve it to him. "Now you tell me, sir, why would that be?" The young waiter looked trapped, eyes darting between them. The head waiter's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly before he forced a smile. "Ma'am, I assure you, no such instructions came from this kitchen. Perhaps it was a misunderstanding." Marjorie pulled the note from her clutch and unfolded it, holding it up like a weapon. "This doesn't look like a misunderstanding to me." For a heartbeat, silence pressed in. The bustle of the kitchen seemed to fade, every ear straining toward their confrontation. The head waiter's smile faltered, then returned, thinner. "Let me investigate," he said smoothly. Perhaps one of the junior staff made a mistake. But Marjorie's gut told her this man knew more than he admitted. She lowered her voice, venom in every word. "If you think I'll let this slide, you're wrong. If you think I won't drag this entire kitchen into the light, you're wrong. Someone wants to hurt my grandson, and I will find out who." The head waiter's eyes flicked again toward the dining tent, toward the tables where laughter swelled louder, then back to her, harder this time. He inclined his head, professional, but not respectful. "As you wish, ma'am." Marjorie held his gaze, refusing to be the first to look away. Inside, her heart pounded. She didn't know yet if he was guilty or just complicit, but she knew this. The danger was closer than she had feared. When she returned to Leo, she found him sitting quietly, legs swinging, untouched juice on the table beside him. Relief softened her shoulders for a moment. She took his hand again. The party roared on, around them champagne corks popping, silverware clinking. Marjorie guided Leo back toward their table, her heart still hammering from the confrontation in the kitchen. She kept her smile plastered on, unwilling to let anyone see the storm gathering beneath her calm exterior. To the other guests, she was simply the proud mother of the groom, enjoying the evening. But inside, she was a soldier guarding a single precious life. The reception buzzed with warmth, clinking glasses, bursts of laughter, Ava radiant at Alex's side as they made their way from table to table. Guests congratulated them, snapped pictures, lifted flutes of champagne high. The surface was smooth, flawless, a picture of happiness, yet Marjorie knew too well that the cracks were always just beneath the paint. The night had ripened into that golden hour of a wedding reception, the moment when speeches and toasts began. Guests were settling, glasses filled, the band softening into a background hum. Marjorie sat rigid, her hand curled protectively over Leo's small shoulder. Her smile was fixed, but her eyes were sharp, scanning every corner of the room. Alex rose, his arm around Ava's waist. His voice trembled slightly as he began his toast, thanking family, friends, and fate itself for bringing him and Ava together. Laughter bubbled when he recounted their first date, and a cheer followed his declaration of everlasting love. It was perfect, polished, the kind of moment weddings are meant to hold. But Marjorie couldn't unclench. She kept thinking about the note, about the head waiter's thin smile, about the shrimp tray gleaming under the kitchen lights. Every word of Alex's speech felt muffled, distant, against the thunder of her instincts. Her gaze drifted to the servers again. One of them, a young woman with tired eyes, hovered by the champagne table. Marjorie noticed how the woman's hand trembled as she poured, spilling tiny drops of gold liquid onto the linen. Nervousness or fear? "Grandma," Leo whispered, leaning close. "Why aren't you clapping?" Marjorie forced her hands together in applause, though her palms felt like stone. "I'm listening, baby, just listening." Then came the clinking of silver against glass. Alex raising his flute, ready to invite the room to join him in a toast. Waiters swirled through the tent, topping glasses swiftly, efficiently. One approached their table, bottle poised, his smile stretched thin. Marjorie placed her hand over her glass. "No, thank you." But the server didn't move on. His eyes flicked to Leo's untouched juice, then back to her. A pause, small but deliberate, before he inclined his head and stepped away. The air around her seemed to thicken. "Ladies and gentlemen," Alex announced, his face glowing, "to love that endures, and to family that stands the test of time." Glasses lifted, crystal chiming like stars colliding. Marjorie's throat closed. She thought of family, of Tessend, of cracks hidden beneath flawless portraits. She couldn't drink. She wouldn't. As the toast ended in laughter and kisses, she leaned down to Leo. "Stay with me. Don't touch anything unless I give it to you." "Yes, Grandma," he said, wide-eyed but obedient. Across the tent, she caught the head waiter watching her, not serving, not moving, just watching. When their eyes locked, he smiled again, slow and knowing, as if to say, Asterisk, this is only the beginning. Asterisk, Marjorie's heart pounded so loud she barely heard the band swell into the next song. Something dark was threading its way through the celebration, and she knew before the night ended, she would have to rip it out by the roots. The band struck up a lively tune, and the dance floor filled with couples swaying under strings of lights. Ava's gown shimmered as Alex spun her, their smiles radiant, their movements effortless. To anyone watching, it was a picture of joy. But to Marjorie, the celebration was painted over with shadows. She kept Leo close beside her, her hand never leaving his small arm. He tugged once or twice, wanting to join the other children, darting between tables, but she shook her head gently. Not tonight, sweetheart. Stay near me. Her eyes never stopped scanning. Each server moving through the crowd felt like a puzzle piece that didn't quite fit. Their trays were laden with champagne flutes, hors d'oeuvres, desserts, delicate as glass figurines, perfect, but too perfect, like bait laid in plain sight. Then, in the corner of her eye, Marjorie caught the headwaiter slipping out of the tent and into the garden path. He wasn't carrying a tray, wasn't rushing back to the kitchen. He was alone, and deliberate. Her pulse quickened. She bent down to Leo. Stay in your chair. Don't move. Grandma will be right back. Leo frowned, worry pinching his round face. Promise. I promise. Cross my heart. She pressed a kiss to his hair, then straightened and walked toward the side exit, her heels clicking too loudly on the wood floor. Outside, the air was cooler, fragrant with night-blooming jasmine. The head waiter stood near the hedge, his phone glowing in his hand. He was murmuring quickly into it, his face partially shadowed. Marjorie ducked behind a trellis, heart thudding as she strained to hear. Yes, after the toast. No, she wouldn't drink. Don't worry, we'll adjust. His voice was low, clipped. A pause. Then, tonight is the only chance. Her skin prickled with cold. She stumbled back, her elbow brushing against the trellis, rattling its wooden slats. The sound was small but sharp. The waiter's head snapped up, his eyes narrowed, scanning the darkness. Marjorie held her breath, pressing herself against the lattice, praying the shadows would hide her. For a long moment, the only sound was the soft chorus of crickets and the faint thrum of music spilling from the tent. Finally, the waiter slipped his phone into his pocket and disappeared down the garden path. Marjorie sagged against the trellis, her lungs burning. She had heard enough. The danger wasn't her imagination. It was real, and it was here, stalking her family on the happiest night of their lives. When she returned to the tent, Leo looked up, his face relieved. She forced a smile, though her insides trembled. Everything's fine, baby, she whispered, sitting beside him again. But as the music swelled and the dance floor spun seven, Marjorie's forced smile lingered as she sat beside Leo. But her mind raced faster than the violin's tempo. Every word she had overheard gnawed at her. Asterisk after the toast. Tonight is the only chance. Asterisk. The danger wasn't over. It was only circling closer. She needed answers, not just suspicions. And there was only one place to find them, the kitchen. That was the nest where every dish, every glass, every piece of this celebration passed through. If there was poison in the evening, it would be waiting there. She squeezed Leo's hand. Stay here, sweetheart. Don't leave this chair for anything. Do you understand? His big eyes looked up at her, hesitant but trusting. You'll come back. I will, I promise. She kissed his cheek and stood, smoothing her dress as if she were simply going to powder her nose. No one needed to know the truth, not yet. Slipping through the tent's back flap, she followed the narrow path toward the catering hall. The muffled music dimmed, replaced by the clatter of dishes and the hum of voices. She paused at the threshold, peering inside. The kitchen was a frenzy of movement. Chefs plated desserts like works of art, servers lined up with trays, and in the corner the head waiter. He was leaning close to another man in a crisp black jacket, speaking in tones too hushed for the chaos around them. Marjorie edged closer, staying hidden behind a rack of stacked plates. She caught fragments, each word like a blade. Switched the tray. Not the bride, the older woman. She's the problem. Her breath caught. Asterisk older woman. Asterisk they meant her. The second man nodded curtly. Consider it done. He moved toward a row of champagne flutes already poured, their bubbles catching the overhead lights like tiny jewels. With an almost casual gesture, he slipped a vial from his pocket and tilted it over one of the glasses. The liquid shimmered, clear and invisible, as it blended with the sparkling wine. He set the flute apart, at the edge of the tray, a trap disguised as celebration. Marjorie's stomach twisted. She had never been a woman of confrontation, but the sight ignited a fire in her chest. This wasn't fear anymore, it was fury. Someone was hunting her under the guise of her son's happiness, and she would not allow it. She stepped back, accidentally bumping a stack of pans. The clang rang sharp in the air. Heads turned. The headwaiter's eyes locked on hers, recognition flaring instantly. That same thin smile spread across his face, darker this time. He murmured something to the man with the vial, and both began moving toward her. Marjorie's heartbeat thundered in her ears. She turned and fled. Skirts gathered in skirts bunched in her fists. Marjorie burst back into the tent, the celebration blurred around her music, laughter, clinking glasses, but her eyes locked on one thing, the tray of champagne weaving toward her table. Leo sat waiting, patient, small hands folded in his lap just as she had told him, and the poisoned flute, glittering among the others, was only a few steps away. Stop! The word tore from her throat louder than the band, louder than the crowd. Heads swiveled, conversations froze. The server faltered mid-step, confusion flashing across his face. Marjorie strode forward, her chest heaving, her finger stabbing at the tray. "Don't touch those glasses. One of them is poisoned." Gasps rippled through the tent. Guests recoiled, some laughing nervously, others already setting down their drinks. At the head table, Alex's brow furrowed as he rushed toward her. "Mom, what are you talking about?" She seized the tray, her hand trembling as she scanned the flutes. Which one was it? They looked identical, bubbles rising in perfect disguise. Panic clawed at her throat. She had seen the man mark it, set it aside. But where? Then she spotted it. One glass sat slightly apart, its rim faintly smudged, as though touched too many times. Marjorie lifted it high. "This one. They meant for me to drink this." The head waiter appeared at the edge of the tent, his smile gone, his face taut with fury. "She's delirious," he said smoothly, voice carrying across the stunned crowd. "Grief, perhaps, or the wine." But before he could finish, Leo's small voice rang out, clear as a bell. "She's not lying. I heard him. In the kitchen, they said Grandma was the problem." The boy's words shattered the room. Murmurs surged. Eyes turned on the waiter. Alex froze, caught between disbelief and dawning horror. Marjorie, her hands steady now, hurled the glass to the floor. It exploded, shards scattering like shrapnel. The acrid temps that rose from the spill was wrong. Chemical, not wine. The proof hissed against the floorboards. Screams erupted. Guests stumbled back, tables rattling as chairs scraped. Alex's face drained of color. "Security!" he roared. 2 guards lunged forward, but the head waiter bolted, shoving past stunned guests, knocking over a chair in his haste. He didn't make it far. Strong arms grabbed him before he could slip into the dock garden. As he was dragged back, struggling and cursing, Marjorie stood tall, chest heaving, eyes blazing. Her secret was out, but so was the truth. Alex stared at her, his voice breaking. "Mom, they wanted to kill you." Marjorie nodded, tears burning her eyes. "And tonight, I wasn't going to let them succeed." Leo clung to her side, his little arms wrapped tight around her waist. Guests whispered, shocked, shaken, but alive. The wedding was scarred now, forever changed, yet saved from a shadow none of them had seen until she tore it into the light. As the guards dragged the head waiter away and the music sputtered into silence, Marjorie realized the battle wasn't over. Whoever had sent him was still out there, still pulling strings. But tonight, her family still stood, and so did she.